Most people believe that lasting weight loss comes from eating less, counting calories, or exercising more. But real, sustainable fat loss doesn't begin in the gym or the kitchen. It begins in the gut. Inside your digestive system lives a vast, intelligent ecosystem of bacteria known as the microbiome, and this community acts like the body's metabolic control center. It decides how efficiently you burn calories, how much inflammation you carry, and even how well your hunger hormones, like leptin and ghrelin, communicate with your brain. When this system is balanced, your metabolism runs like a well-tuned engine, burning fat steadily, keeping energy high, and supporting clear, focused thinking. The problem is, most modern diets are designed to destroy that balance. Processed foods, refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, and low-fiber meals strip away microbial diversity, starving the very bacteria responsible for keeping your metabolism active. It's like taking the battery out of your body's energy system. Over time, the result is metabolic sluggishness, chronic fatigue, sugar cravings, and a body that stores fat no matter how clean you try to eat. Our ancestors didn't face these issues. Their diets were naturally rich in fibers, polyphenols, and fermented foods that constantly nourished their gut microbes. They weren't counting calories, they were feeding the bacteria that burned them. Their microbiomes thrived on diversity, and that diversity meant a metabolism that could easily switch into fat-burning mode. When you fix your gut, weight loss stops being a battle of willpower. It becomes biology working in your favor. Healing the microbiome doesn't just change your waistline, it transforms your energy, mental clarity, and resilience from the inside out. The goal isn't restriction, it's restoration. Because when your gut works properly, everything else follows. The relationship between the gut and metabolism runs far deeper than most people realize. The microbes living in your gut are not passive passengers, they are active regulators of how your body processes energy. Every meal you eat doesn't just feed you, it feeds trillions of bacteria that live inside your intestines. In return, these microbes send chemical signals that influence how efficiently you absorb nutrients, how your body manages blood sugar, and even how much fat you store. This two-way communication between gut bacteria and your metabolic system determines whether you become a fat burner or a fat storer. A healthy and diverse microbiome acts as a finely tuned control center. It helps keep blood sugar stable by improving insulin sensitivity and reducing post-meal glucose spikes. Certain bacterial species produce short-chain fatty acids, like butyrate, propionate, and acetate, through the fermentation of dietary fiber. These compounds are not just fuel for gut cells, they act as powerful metabolic messengers. Butyrate, for example, enhances mitochondrial function and increases the body's ability to burn fat for energy. Propionate helps regulate glucose production in the liver, while acetate can signal satiety in the brain, helping you feel satisfied after meals. When the gut microbiome loses diversity, often due to antibiotics, stress, processed foods, and low-fiber diets, this metabolic communication breaks down. The balance between fat burning and fat storing bacteria shifts dramatically. Research consistently shows that people with obesity have a higher ratio of firmicutes to bacteroidetes in their gut. Firmicutes are highly efficient at extracting calories from food, turning even small amounts of carbohydrates into stored fat. Bacteroidetes, on the other hand, promote a leaner metabolism by supporting efficient energy utilization rather than storage. A microbiome dominated by firmicutes effectively trains the body to conserve energy, slowing fat burning and encouraging weight gain, even when calorie intake is modest. One of the most fascinating discoveries in metabolic science involves a bacterium called F. Akkermansia mucinifera. This species thrives on the mucus lining of the gut and plays a crucial role in maintaining the integrity of the intestinal barrier. Studies have shown that higher levels of Akkermansia are associated with improved insulin sensitivity, reduced inflammation, and lower body fat percentages. It helps regulate the release of gut hormones like GLP-1 and PYY, which control appetite and energy balance. Essentially, when Akkermansia is abundant, your metabolism operates more efficiently, your cravings diminish, and your body naturally prefers to burn fat rather than store it. On the other side of the spectrum, A depleted or imbalanced microbiome sends distress signals that promote inflammation, insulin resistance, and fat accumulation. Chronic inflammation, driven by toxins like lipopolysaccharides, LPS leaking from a damaged gut barrier, disrupts hormonal communication between the gut, liver, and fat cells. The body responds by storing more fat around the organs, known as visceral fat, which further feeds inflammation and slows metabolism. This creates a vicious cycle where a dysfunctional microbiome perpetuates metabolic chaos. This understanding reframes obesity entirely. It's not simply the result of eating too much. It's the manifestation of a body whose internal ecosystem has fallen out of balance. When gut bacteria are deprived of fiber and nutrients they thrive on, harmful species overgrow and alter the body's metabolic signals. They encourage the liver to produce more fat, disrupt insulin function, and make it harder for cells to access stored energy. The result is a body that constantly feels tired and hungry because its fuel system is broken. Rebalancing the microbiome effectively reprograms metabolism at the cellular level. As beneficial bacteria flourish again, inflammation decreases, insulin sensitivity improves, and the body begins to shift from fat storage to fat utilization. People often notice that once their gut health improves, they can eat nourishing whole foods without gaining weight. Their cravings subside, and their energy remains steady throughout the day. These aren't coincidences, they are the natural outcomes of restoring microbial harmony. Modern research now suggests that the gut acts like a thermostat for metabolism. It sets the tone for how much energy the body burns versus stores. Instead of trying to force weight loss through restriction, the key is to reset this thermostat by rebuilding microbial diversity. When the microbiome is healthy, fat loss becomes an effortless byproduct of balance rather than deprivation. Healing the gut doesn't just lighten the body. It restores the body's ability to generate energy efficiently, stabilizes mood, and rewires the entire metabolic system from the inside out. When the gut is healthy, it acts as a strong, intelligent barrier, allowing nutrients to enter the bloodstream while keeping harmful compounds locked inside the digestive tract. But when that barrier becomes damaged, the entire system shifts into a state of silent, chronic inflammation. This inflammation is one of the biggest drivers of stubborn weight gain, particularly around the belly. Poor gut health doesn't just affect digestion, it directly programs the body to store fat instead of burning it. Inside the intestinal wall, trillions of microbes interact with immune cells, constantly signaling whether the environment is safe or under threat. When the microbiome loses balance due to stress, processed foods, antibiotics, or alcohol, the protective mucus layer thins and the tight junctions between intestinal cells start to weaken. This creates what's known as leaky gut, a condition where unwanted particles, undigested food proteins, toxins, and bacterial fragments escape into the bloodstream. One of the most damaging of these is lipopolysaccharide, or LPS, a toxic compound found on the outer wall of certain bacteria. When LPS enters the blood, the immune system reacts as if the body is under attack. It releases inflammatory cytokines to fight the perceived threat, setting off a continuous, low-grade inflammatory response. Unlike acute inflammation from an injury, this kind doesn't heal, it lingers silently, disrupting hormones, mitochondria, and metabolism. This state of constant inflammation signals the body to store energy, not spend it. It blocks fat oxidation and promotes fat accumulation, especially around the abdomen where inflammatory fat cells thrive. Dr. Myhill often explains this with a simple principle: the body cannot burn fat efficiently in an inflamed state. Inflammation shifts the body's metabolic priority from energy generation to defense. When the immune system is activated, the body interprets it as a survival threat. The focus moves toward conserving resources, storing fat, and slowing down non-essential processes. Fat burning becomes secondary. This is why people with chronic inflammation, often rooted in gut dysfunction, struggle to lose weight no matter how little they eat or how much they exercise. The body is not disobedient, it's protecting itself. The inflammatory cascade triggered by leaky gut also interferes with insulin sensitivity. When cells are inflamed, they become resistant to insulin signals, meaning glucose can't enter them efficiently for energy. The pancreas compensates by producing more insulin, but high insulin levels themselves act as a fat storage hormone. They lock fat inside cells and prevent lipolysis, the process of breaking down fat for fuel. Over time, this creates a metabolic environment where fat loss becomes nearly impossible. Visceral fat, the deep fat that wraps around organs, plays a key role in this vicious cycle. It's not just stored energy, it's an active tissue that releases its own inflammatory molecules, perpetuating the very problem that created it. The more visceral fat a person has, the more inflammation they produce, and the harder it becomes to lose that fat. This feedback loop explains why belly fat is so stubborn and why traditional calorie cutting strategies rarely work. They don't address the underlying inflammation, keeping the body locked in storage mode. Healing the gut lining breaks this loop. When the intestinal barrier is restored, LPS and other toxins stop leaking into the bloodstream, and the immune system can finally calm down. As inflammation subsides, insulin sensitivity improves, and blood sugar stabilizes, and the body starts to unlock stored fat for energy. Mitochondria, the energy factories within cells, function more efficiently, producing clean energy rather than oxidative stress. The metabolism shifts from defense to restoration. Nutrients like zinc, L-glutamine, and omega-3 fatty acids play an important role in repairing the gut wall, while prebiotic fibers and fermented foods help repopulate beneficial microbes that reinforce the barrier. As microbial diversity returns, the mucus layer thickens, tight junctions reseal, and inflammation steadily fades. The body begins to trust its environment again, releasing the chronic tension that once held fat in place. People often notice that as their gut heals, bloating decreases, cravings diminish, and their body composition begins to change, even without drastic dietary restriction. This is the natural consequence of reducing inflammation at its source. The moment the gut stops leaking inflammatory signals into the bloodstream, the metabolism can switch back into fat-burning mode. Energy levels rise, sleep improves, and weight loss happens as a byproduct of healing, not punishment. At its core, fat storage is not a willpower issue. It's a biological adaptation to inflammation. When the gut is compromised, the body's natural rhythm of energy use collapses. But by healing the gut lining, rebalancing the microbiome, and calming immune overactivity, the body can finally return to a state where it feels safe to burn fat again. The key isn't to force weight loss through deprivation. It's to create the internal conditions where fat loss becomes the body's natural state once more. The human gut is not just a digestive organ. It's a powerful communication network that constantly talks to the brain and influences behavior, including hunger and cravings. Deep within this system, gut bacteria act like microscopic chemists, producing neurotransmitters and hormones that dictate what foods we crave, how satisfied we feel after eating, and even how much willpower we have to resist unhealthy choices. When the microbiome is balanced, appetite is stable and eating feels effortless. But when it's out of balance, a state known as dysbiosis, the gut can hijack hunger signals, driving intense cravings for sugar and processed foods. Every meal begins with a conversation between the gut and the brain. This dialogue happens through the gut-brain axis, a two-way communication channel that connects the enteric nervous system in the gut to the central nervous system. Gut microbes produce and regulate many of the same neurotransmitters that control mood and appetite, including serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. In fact, around 90% of the body's serotonin, the feel-good chemical, is made in the gut, not the brain. When beneficial bacteria thrive, serotonin levels stay balanced, which supports emotional stability and helps prevent emotional eating. When the microbiome becomes disrupted, serotonin drops, and the brain often seeks comfort through quick dopamine hits from sugary or high-fat foods. Another key part of this equation involves hunger and satiety hormones, ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin, often called the hunger hormone, signals the brain that it's time to eat, while leptin tells the brain when you've had enough. A healthy microbiome keeps these hormones in sync, allowing your appetite to rise and fall naturally. But when dysbiosis takes hold, inflammation and microbial imbalance interfere with these signals. The brain stops responding to leptin properly. a condition known as leptin resistance, leading to constant hunger even after eating. At the same time, ghrelin levels may remain elevated, amplifying cravings and creating the illusion of starvation despite adequate energy stores. This biological confusion explains why so many people feel trapped in a cycle of overeating and guilt. It's not a failure of willpower, it's a failure of microbial balance. Certain harmful bacteria actually manipulate appetite to ensure their own survival. For example, sugar-loving microbes thrive on processed carbohydrates and refined sugars, and they can release chemical signals that make you crave exactly those foods. Every time you feed them, they grow stronger, while beneficial species that prefer fiber and polyphenols weaken. Over time, this shift creates a self-reinforcing loop where the gut ecosystem is dominated by microbes that demand junk food, leaving you feeling powerless against cravings. In contrast, a diverse and healthy microbiome acts as a natural appetite regulator. Beneficial bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids such as butyrate and propionate, which play a direct role in appetite control. These compounds stimulate the release of peptide YYP5 and GLP-1, two hormones that reduce hunger and promote feelings of fullness. They also improve insulin sensitivity and stabilize blood sugar levels, preventing the rapid energy crashes that drive late night snacking or emotional eating. When these systems are working properly, hunger becomes predictable and manageable. You eat when your body needs fuel and stop when it's satisfied. The gut's control over appetite extends beyond biochemistry. It shapes perception and behavior. Research shows that microbial imbalances can alter taste receptors and reward pathways in the brain, changing how foods are perceived. A healthy microbiome enhances sensitivity to natural flavors, making whole foods taste more satisfying. But dysbiosis dulls these senses, leading to dependence on artificially flavored, hyper-palatable foods. This is why someone can move from craving soda and sweets to preferring fresh, natural foods once their gut begins to heal. Their microbial population and taste signals realign toward balance. When you restore your microbiome, you regain command over your own appetite. Balance gut bacteria lower inflammation, normalize hormone signaling, and stabilize mood. As serotonin and dopamine production returns to healthy levels, the brain no longer seeks emotional comfort through food. Hunger feels calm and predictable rather than urgent or compulsive. Meals become satisfying, not addictive. People often describe this shift as finally feeling in control, but in reality, it's their biology returning to harmony. The idea that willpower alone can control cravings is outdated. True willpower comes from physiology, not psychology. The gut microbiome is the silent force behind self-control, shaping what you desire and when you desire it. When dysbiosis rules, the gut drives you toward foods that perpetuate inflammation and fatigue. When balance is restored, your own biology supports you in making nourishing choices effortlessly. Healing the gut doesn't just transform digestion, it rewires your relationship with food. You stop fighting cravings and start eating in alignment with what your body genuinely needs for energy, balance, and long-term health. The ability to burn fat efficiently is not a matter of willpower or even intense exercise. It's a reflection of the internal environment created by your gut microbiome. Deep within the intestines, beneficial bacteria transform indigestible plant fibers into powerful metabolic messengers known as short-chain fatty acids or SCFAs. The most studied of these are butyrate, propionate, and acetate, and they act as biochemical switches that turn on fat-burning pathways throughout the body. When your gut bacteria are balanced and well-fed, they produce abundant SCFAs that reprogram metabolism from sluggish and inflamed to flexible and energy efficient. But when the microbiome is depleted or overrun by harmful species, this natural fat-burning chemistry collapses, trapping the body in a state of low energy and stubborn fat storage. Butyrate, often called the master molecule of metabolic health, plays a central role in this process. It fuels the cells that line the gut wall, strengthening the barrier and reducing inflammation, a critical first step for restoring fat metabolism. Butyrate also activates genes involved in mitochondrial biogenesis, essentially instructing the body to create more mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside cells responsible for converting nutrients into usable energy. With more mitochondria functioning efficiently, the body becomes better at oxidizing fatty acids for fuel instead of storing them. This is what functional medicine calls metabolic flexibility, the ability to switch smoothly between burning glucose and burning fat depending on the body's needs. Propionate works alongside butyrate to enhance this process, helping regulate glucose metabolism and protect against insulin resistance. It communicates directly with the liver, signaling it to use fat for energy while preventing excess glucose production. This dual action stabilizes blood sugar levels and prevents the roller coaster of spikes and crashes that often trigger cravings and energy slumps. When these SCS are abundant, the body can access stored fat more easily, energy levels remain steady, and the metabolic system becomes self-regulating rather than reactive. In a healthy gut, these compounds also influence key metabolic hormones such as GLP-1 and PYY, both of which increase satiety and improve insulin sensitivity. GLP-1, in particular, has gained attention in medicine for its ability to enhance fat loss and metabolic control. Many modern weight loss drugs mimic its effects. Yet your own gut bacteria are capable of stimulating GLP-1 production naturally when properly nourished with fiber, rich foods like vegetables, legumes, and resistant starches. This means that the same biological pathways targeted by expensive pharmaceuticals can be activated through the restoration of microbial health. The connection between the microbiome and fat metabolism extends to the liver as well. The liver is the body's main fat processing organ, converting fatty acids into energy and detoxifying metabolic waste. But when the gut becomes imbalanced, toxins and inflammatory compounds such as lipopolysaccharides leak into the bloodstream and burden the liver. Over time, this leads to fatty liver changes and impaired fat oxidation. SCFAs like butyrate and propionate act as protective allies, reducing liver inflammation, improving bile flow, and optimizing the enzymes responsible for breaking down fats. This restoration of liver function is essential for turning stored fat into usable fuel and preventing the buildup of visceral fat around the organs. What's remarkable is that these metabolic benefits don't come from restriction or force. They emerge naturally once the gut environment is favorable. You cannot force the body to burn fat through deprivation, fasting, or exercise alone if the internal biochemistry is hostile. When inflammation is high and SCFA production is low, the body perceives stress and resists fat loss as a survival mechanism. Healing the microbiome changes the conversation entirely. It signals safety, stability, and abundance, allowing the body to shift effortlessly into energy production and repair. This is why people who restore gut balance often report that fat loss begins to happen spontaneously without drastic changes to diet or activity. Functional medicine teaches that healing always precedes performance. You can't expect the body to run efficiently when the cellular machinery is clogged with toxins, oxidative stress, or inflammatory signals from the gut. But when beneficial microbes thrive, they provide the fuel and communication needed for every system to function optimally. Mitochondria burn cleaner, hormones regulate more smoothly, and the metabolism becomes adaptable rather than rigid. The goal is not to push harder, but to align biology with its natural design. When the microbiome produces sufficient SCFAs, fat burning is no longer a struggle. It becomes the body's default mode. The mitochondria hum with energy, blood sugar remains balanced, and the liver efficiently clears waste and converts fats into fuel. This is the quiet power of gut restoration. It transforms metabolism from the inside out. The more diverse and nourished your microbiome becomes, the more your body reclaims its innate ability to burn fat, maintain steady energy, and thrive without the constant stress of restriction. The secret is not in forcing the process, but in creating the internal conditions that make fat burning inevitable. Restoring the gut microbiome is not about taking a single supplement or following a short-term cleanse. It's about creating the daily conditions that allow beneficial bacteria to thrive. The microbiome is a living ecosystem, and like any ecosystem, it depends on diversity, nourishment, and stability. Every choice you make, from the food you eat to the way you handle stress, either feeds or depletes this inner community. The goal is to consistently send the right signals to your gut so that it can rebuild resilience, restore metabolic balance, and reignite natural fat burning. The foundation of a healthy gut begins with food. Beneficial bacteria feed on fiber, not sugar or processed fats. When you eat a wide variety of high-fiber vegetables such as leafy greens, leeks, onions, garlic, asparagus, broccoli, and artichokes, you're giving your microbes the raw material they need to produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate and propionate. These compounds repair the gut lining, lower inflammation, and enhance fat metabolism. The more fiber diversity you consume, the more microbial diversity you cultivate. Think of your plate as a garden. Different colors, textures, and plant families create a richer internal soil. Resistant starch is another critical fuel source for the microbiome. Found in foods like cooked and cooled potatoes, green bananas, legumes, and rice, resistant starch resists digestion in the small intestine and ferments in the colon, feeding beneficial bacteria. This fermentation produces butyrate, which strengthens gut integrity and boosts mitochondrial function. Including a few servings of resistant starch weekly can significantly improve microbial balance and energy metabolism. Fermented foods act as natural probiotics, introducing beneficial species directly into the gut. Sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, yogurt, and miso are traditional examples that deliver live cultures capable of colonizing the gut and supporting immune health. These foods also help regulate appetite and reduce inflammation through their direct interaction with gut lining cells. For many people, even small daily amounts, just a spoonful of sauerkraut or a glass of kefir, can make a noticeable difference in digestion and energy levels. Polyphenol-rich foods add another layer of nourishment. Polyphenols are plant compounds found in berries, green tea, olive oil, dark chocolate, and colorful vegetables. They act as prebiotics, feeding beneficial microbes and suppressing harmful ones. Beyond that, polyphenols reduce oxidative stress, stabilize blood sugar, and improve insulin sensitivity, which supports fat metabolism. A simple habit like drinking green tea daily or adding a handful of blueberries to breakfast can provide a steady stream of these gut-friendly compounds. Just as important as what you add is what you remove. The modern gut is under constant assault from chemicals, antibiotics, and processed foods. Antibiotics, while sometimes necessary, can wipe out entire populations of beneficial bacteria, often taking months to recover. Avoiding unnecessary antibiotic use and supporting the gut with probiotics and fiber-rich foods afterward helps restore balance. Processed foods, particularly those loaded with refined sugars, industrial oils, and emulsifiers, damage the gut lining and feed harmful microbes that drive inflammation. Artificial sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose have also been shown to alter microbial composition, impairing glucose regulation and promoting insulin resistance. Eliminating or minimizing these disruptors is one of the fastest ways to reduce gut stress. Chronic stress is another silent destroyer of gut health. The gut and brain are deeply interconnected, and psychological stress changes gut motility, reduces beneficial bacteria, and increases intestinal permeability. Practices like deep breathing, meditation, and time in nature lower cortisol levels and allow the microbiome to recover. Even simple rituals, like stepping away from screens during meals or taking a slow walk after eating, can shift the nervous system toward relaxation, improving digestion and microbial function. Eating patterns also matter. Constant grazing prevents the gut from entering its natural cleaning cycle, known as the migrating motor complex, which sweeps away debris and harmful bacteria between meals. Allowing time between meals, 3 to 4 hours of fasting during the day, and a longer overnight fast of 12 to 14 hours, gives the digestive system time to rest and repair. This mild intermittent fasting not only improves microbial diversity, but also enhances fat burning and insulin sensitivity. Restoring the gut is not about perfection, but about consistency. Small daily choices compound over time. Swapping processed snacks for vegetables, sipping green tea instead of sugary drinks, or adding a spoonful of fermented food each day builds momentum. Each positive input shifts the microbial balance toward health, which in turn improves mood, energy, and metabolism. The process is self-reinforcing. The healthier your microbiome becomes, the easier it is to make nourishing choices, and the more your body rewards you with vitality and fat-burning efficiency. From a systems thinking perspective, the gut is the hub of the body's energy economy. When you nurture it through real, unprocessed food, balanced eating rhythms, and mindful living, you restore communication between the gut, liver, and brain. In this balanced state, the body doesn't need to be forced to burn fat. It does so naturally because all the internal signals align with efficiency, not survival. The key is to support the ecosystem daily, feed the right species, and remove what harms them. Over time, the microbiome regains its diversity, inflammation fades, and the body returns to its natural rhythm of sustained energy and effortless fat burning. When you begin to heal your gut, the changes go far beyond the scale. While fat loss might be the most visible benefit, the true transformation happens on a deeper level within every cell, organ, and system of the body. The gut microbiome sits at the center of human health, orchestrating immunity, brain function, hormone balance, and energy production. When it's diverse and balanced, your entire physiology shifts toward vitality and longevity. Healing the gut is not a short-term fix for weight. It's a lifelong foundation for optimal health. A healthy microbiome acts as the body's first line of defense against illness. Around 70% of the immune system is housed in the gut, constantly interacting with microbes and learning from them. Beneficial bacteria train immune cells to distinguish between friend and foe, preventing overreactions that lead to autoimmune conditions and allergies. When this communication is clear, inflammation stays low, infections are resisted naturally, and the immune system functions with precision instead of chaos. People who maintain a balanced gut often notice fewer colds, quicker recovery times, and a general sense of resilience that makes the body feel more capable of handling life's stresses. The gut also plays an enormous role in brain health. Through the gut-brain axis, microbes influence the production of neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, which shape mood, motivation, and mental clarity. Dysbiosis has been linked to anxiety, depression, brain fog, and poor concentration, while a thriving microbiome supports emotional balance and sharper thinking. Butyrate, one of the short-chain fatty acids produced by beneficial bacteria, crosses the blood-brain barrier and nourishes brain cells directly. It reduces neuroinflammation and enhances neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt, learn, and regenerate. When the gut heals, mental energy returns, focus improves, and emotional stability replaces the roller coaster of stress and fatigue. Hormone balance is another key area influenced by the microbiome. Gut bacteria help regulate estrogen metabolism through what scientists call the microbiome, a network of microbes that determine how efficiently excess hormones are broken down and eliminated. When this system works properly, hormones remain in harmony, supporting everything from reproductive health to metabolism and mood. An imbalanced gut can cause estrogen dominance or hormonal irregularities that lead to fatigue, weight gain, and mood swings. Restoring microbial diversity stabilizes these processes naturally, creating a state of internal equilibrium without the need for extreme interventions. Energy production, too, begins in the gut. When microbes efficiently ferment fiber and resistant starch, they generate SCFAs that fuel both the gut lining and the mitochondria within cells. Mitochondria are responsible for producing ATP, the body's usable energy. A nourished microbiome supports mitochondrial efficiency, translating into steady, sustained energy throughout the day. Instead of depending on caffeine or sugar for quick boosts, the body learns to generate energy cleanly from fat and nutrients. This metabolic stability is the hallmark of true vitality, an energy that feels calm, clear, and consistent. Reducing visceral fat, one of the major outcomes of gut healing, also has profound long-term benefits. Visceral fat isn't just a cosmetic issue. It's metabolically active tissue that drives inflammation and increases the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and cognitive decline. As inflammation drops and insulin sensitivity improves, visceral fat begins to shrink, relieving pressure on the liver, pancreas, and cardiovascular system. This doesn't just extend lifespan. It improves health span, the number of years you live feeling strong, clear-headed, and pain-free. Studies show that people with balanced microbiomes have lower rates of chronic disease, better metabolic markers, and slower cellular aging. Gut restoration also influences longevity through the regulation of oxidative stress and cellular repair. Beneficial bacteria help produce antioxidants and modulate genes linked to aging, including those involved in autophagy, the process by which cells clean out damaged components and regenerate. A diverse microbiome supports this renewal process, keeping tissues youthful and functional. In essence, the health of your gut determines the speed at which you age, both inside and out. The long-term impact of a healed microbiome is a body that works with you, not against you. Digestion becomes effortless, sleep deepens, energy stays consistent, and mood remains balanced. Cravings fade, and instead of fighting your biology, you feel guided by it. Every system, immune, endocrine, neurological, and metabolic, functions in synchrony. You're not just preventing disease, you're cultivating vitality that can last decades. Healing the gut is one of the most profound forms of self-care. It doesn't rely on restriction, fear, or external fixes. It's about rebuilding trust with your body. As inflammation settles and metabolic flexibility returns, the body naturally shifts from survival mode to thriving mode. You regain control over your energy, your appetite, and your health. Fixing the gut is not a temporary wellness goal, it's the foundation for a long, vibrant life. When you restore this inner ecosystem, you unlock the body's innate intelligence to heal, burn fat, and thrive, not just for now, but for life.